I'm Chef Say. I love working with phyllo dough because it bakes up crispy and light. So today we're going to make these cute little phyllo cups filled with honey and goat cheese. And then we're also going to make a really beautiful salad dressed with a curry vinaigrette. This is a great brunch dish that's nice and elegant but easy to make. So let's get started. Phyllo dough can be a little daunting to work with, but if you follow 2 simple rules, it'll be a piece of cake. Number 1, let your phyllo thaw in the refrigerator overnight. Then when you're ready to use it, let it come to room temperature. It's just going to be easier to work with. Rule number 2, make sure you keep it covered at all times. See how I have a layer of plastic wrap and a towel? This is going to keep it nice and moist. If it gets too dry, forget about it. It's going to crack and fall apart. So to make our little phyllo cups, we're just going to take a nice layer of phyllo. Be very careful. It's going to break a little bit. That's okay. I'm just going to put down my phyllo on the board. Because I want to lighten this recipe up, I'm going to use a little bit of Nonstick spray. Usually phyllo is brushed with butter, and I still want that great butter flavor and that nice crispness, but this Nonstick cooking spray will work just as well. Then I'm going to take my second layer. See, it's starting to rip. That's okay. Place it down directly on top of my other one. Now, because I like the flavor of butter, I'm going to brush this second sheet generously with butter. And we're not going to use too much, which is great. So you still get that fantastic flavor of the butter without it being too calorie laden. We're going to build a total of 4 layers altogether. Tear that off. There we go. So this is layer number 3. And with this layer, I'm going to use the Nonstick spray, spraying generously. And then for our final layer, our 4th layer, we're going to use a little bit of that butter. Okay, now we're ready to make our cups. So I'm going to cut this into 12 squares. I'm kind of going to eyeball it. It's not going to be perfect, but make sure you use a really sharp knife. So just cut this section into 4s, and then this side into 3s. They're not perfectly straight, but that's okay. We're going to make them work. And now, take your little sheets and push them down into a mini muffin tin. Now, you'll notice that I am using a silicone tray. I really love the cleanup and the ease of use with these, but if you don't have one, that's okay. You can use your mini muffin tin. These just came out of the oven. You can see they're dry, but they're not brown. We want them to crisp up a little bit before we fill them, so when the goat cheese bakes, it's going to be nice and crunchy. So to this, I'm going to add my fresh goat cheese. So I'm just taking a little mound and pushing that directly in there, and fill these generously. That's perfect. And these should be ready for the oven again. While these are baking, we're going to go ahead and make our curry vinaigrette. So I'm going to start out with a little Dijon mustard, a nice heaping teaspoon of curry powder or more, if you like a lot of curry powder, some vinegar, there we go, just a splash, a little bit of salt, and finally some pepper. Now what we're going to do is we're going to whisk this all together. What we want to happen is the salt to dissolve in our acid. If we tried to add the salt after we added the oil, the salt's not going to dissolve. Now, to make our emulsion, our vinaigrette, we're going to suspend the fat particles, which is the olive oil, in the vinegar particles. So we're going to whisk and in a constant stream, pour in that olive oil, just like this. That's perfect. And what this is going to do is suspend those fat particles, making a really nice, creamy vinaigrette. There we go. That's going to make a nice vinaigrette for our salad, and we're also going to put a little bit on our goat cheese cups. Ooh, and I think our goat cheese is done. These came out perfect. Our goat cheese is nice and hot and bubbly. And to this, I'm just going to add a little bit of honey on each one, not too much. It helps if your honey is a little bit warm ahead of time. That way it pours nicely into your cup. And then I'm just going to take these and pop them out. Oh, look how sweet those are. And put them on our plate. I usually serve about 3 per person. There we go. They're nice and crispy, and they smell so good. And then we have our nice mixed greens. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of our curry vinaigrette on top. Not too much, because you don't wanna overwhelm the salad. Perfect. Give this a nice little toss. And put a nice heaping handful on the plate. And then the final thing that we're gonna do, just to top it off, is add a little bit of that curry vinaigrette, little tiny drop on each of our little goat cheese cups. That's perfect. And these are ready to be served. Happy and healthy eating.